Dear participants, welcome again to this session 3 of day 4. For this session, I would like to request my young colleague, Dr. Muhammad Atif Jamil, to moderate the session and take over from now.
Thank you, Dr. Imran. So, welcome all the participants in this session of the activity on communication techniques. Now, I would like to provide a brief introduction of the resource person for the session, Dr. Sanan Hussain Khan. Dr. Sanan Hussain Khan is serving as an assistant professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering, Aligarh Muslim University, India. He obtained his PhD degree in solid mechanics from the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur in 2018. Further, Dr. Khan earned a postdoc from the Department of Applied Mechanics, IIT Delhi. His research interests include damage behavior of composite laminate, impact mechanics, large strain rate deformation, high strain rate testing, and non-linear finite element analysis. Dr. Khan has got a total of 13 SCI Index research papers to his credit. He also acts as a reviewer for many international papers. I would like now request Dr. Sanan Khan to take over. Dr. Sanan. Dr. Khan, over to you. Sanan, you may now proceed, please.
Hello everyone and welcome to this session. We'll be having a discussion of my work that I have done earlier. And this is related with finite element analysis on structures, aircraft structures using finite element method. And we will be looking to the very important material which is used in aircraft, cargo planes, and commercial airlines. These are known as fiber metal laminates. Fiber metal laminates are a combination of composite materials and metal layers. And in the later part, we will be discussing why we are using metal layers in the composite laminates. We will start the proceedings by looking towards some of the interesting aspects of fiber metal laminates, how they behave in different loading conditions. And these loading conditions are very usual, which are tensile loading and high strain rate loading, and a very common out of plane impact. So we will be seeing some of the experimental behaviors and corresponding numerical results. Throughout this lecture, we will not be going into a deep mathematics of finite element method. Most of these things has been already, I think, covered earlier lectures. We'll be looking towards more of the visual part of the finite element method and how the laminates behave when they are being loaded. As I said, finite element method, fiber metal laminates composed of composite laminate and a metal layer. So a composite laminate are the materials which consist of fibers and matrix. Fibers are reinforcement agents. However, the matrix actually helps to distribute the load over the laminate. Along with that, we are also using metal layers because the overall composite laminate is very brittle in nature. Brittle, as you know, is a behavior of the material so that it breaks in a catastrophic failure, like a food item, like a popper. So whenever a small load is applied on it, it breaks in a catastrophic failure. However, the composite laminates has very high strength, so it doesn't break like a popper, but the behavior is very similar. Load drops very suddenly once the failure is initiated. So to avoid that catastrophic failure, metal layers are added or placed inside these configuration. This is done because metal layers are tactile in nature and they helps to transfer the load and mostly load the material in a plastic nature. These are some of the variants of fiber metal laminates. When we use fiber metal laminates and aluminum based fiber metal laminates with glass fiber, they are called as glare. And when we used aramide fiber, they are called as aram. For a carbon fiber, we have known as karar. When we use carbon as a reinforcing agent with aluminum as a material. And these are the internal specification depending upon how much metal layers are included in the configuration. This is termed as 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Apart from aluminum, other metal-based FMLs are also available, like magnesium and titanium. As you can see in this figure, this is a composite combination in which this is a metal layer. In between, we have one metal layer, and in the base. So top and bottom, the composite layers, the composite configuration is sandwiched between these configuration. And we have named them as layer 3x2. That means 3 metal layers and 2 090 composite layers. Now this is very important, the application part, because this actually enumerates why the use of FML is required, why there is a requirement to add a metal layer inside the composite configuration. And this happens because, like, whenever an aircraft takes off or it lands, there are various amount of debris on the platform. So due to the thrust created, these debris actually flies and hits on the bottom part of the aircraft in these parts. And they creates catastrophic damage to the airplane. Further, during the movement of the airplane also, there may be a bird or some other petals which may strike the airplane. And remember, at that much amount of altitude, we have a very high pressure. So these velocities are very high. And there are examples in past in which there is high amount of damage occurred in these airplanes. So earlier the planes were usually made up of composite materials, a combination of fibers. It may be a glass fiber or aramide fiber or carbon fiber being very high in strength, or it may be a FML. But since these incidents has happened in the past, so FMLs or a metal layer has been included, added in the structure, so that it offers a ductility to the system, so that once these debris strikes the airplane in any form, or the bird etc. So even if the damage happens, the most of the load is carried in the plastic behavior of the material. And the composites are actually safeguarded. It is used in the cargo airplanes, as you can see here. And it comes up with a weight reduction as well, because most of the metal layers or metals are lighter in weight compared to composites. So in airplane, the weight reduction process is very important. If you can anyhow able to reduce the weight of the structure in case of an airplane, you will be rewarded by these accomplishments. Further, they are also used in some of the cargo containers. So they resist. Nowadays, they are also used in scooters, cars, upper bonnet, so that if any crash occurs, the load is distributed in classes. And how the load is distributed? As you can see here, this is a composite layer, and this is a metal layer. Whenever a loading happens, the metal layer first of all fails and it creates a crack. And a crack formation or a crack propagation releases the energy. In metals, the crack is propagated or created by shear. So whenever a shear failure happens, the energy is dissipated. And in this energy, a lot of force is reduced. So your composite is safeguarded. Now let's talk about, this is a very common FAQ that is being asked about the preparation of composite laminates. And this preparation is very simple. It doesn't require any important machines or anything. It only requires your fibers, your matrix, that's two. And the other may be requiring a weighing balance that is very easily available. So this is the fiber sheets. So fibers usually comes in sheets. This is a, like you can see, we have cut these sheets in rectangular fashion. And we can make several samples from this sheet. The direction of the fiber here is like this. And there are about 200, 300 fibers arranged in a bunch. So overall, there are a lot of fibers. And remember that the strength of the fiber is very high when they are loaded along their direction. This is the epoxy of a nature, LY556. This is a specific grade. So what we used to do, we used to, first of all, measure the epoxy. Let's say we have taken the epoxy as 1 part. Then we used to add some hardener so that the mixture, when we used to apply it, the mixture gets hardened. It becomes brittle in nature. And this brittleness actually provides a strength to the composite material. So this hardener is added. This cannot be added earlier, otherwise it will make the epoxy useless, futile. So this is usually at 10% of the weight of epoxy. This helps to control the volume fraction of the composites also. Then you can mix it. We have mixed both the epoxy and the hardener by stirring it. And then we can apply using a simple paint brush. Then apply the epoxy on these composite sheets. Remember that the curing time of the epoxy is usually very less. So you have to apply the epoxy and put all the layers very quickly. This process of applying the layer and rolling it should be done within minutes. Otherwise, your epoxy becomes, the process will be very fast and it will solidify. It will cure. Then we can use a vacuum bag to completely put out all the air inside these laminates. Once all the air has been evacuated, this helps to control the volume fraction, and also it helps to reduce the blowholes, the small blowholes that may be present due to the uneven applying of the epoxy. Remember that these blowholes becomes very critical when the sheet is tested, because from these blowholes, the crack is nucleated and the failure of the composite happens. So it should be ensured that all the air should be pumped out from a vacuum pump if available, and then we can press it in the hydraulic press if it is available to you. If it is not available, then you can use a simple, very heavy machine and you can put it inside or beneath it. So that can be compressed. Any excessive epoxy should be rolled out. And this is the final sheets. And these sheets are very brittle in nature. And then you can grind it and cut your samples according to your dimensions. So this is the very basic process of composites preparation. Now we will discuss about the FML. And remember that these, like the way we have prepared composite laminates, in a similar way, metal layers can also be added and can be binded using the same epoxy. So we used to make the FMS, which is the aircraft structure material, using the same process. In industry, it is made with a different process of using vacuum chamber, and other things are also used because they are using that for a very sophisticated purpose. But for our testing, we can use it with the limited resources that we have using this simple method. Metal layers can also be made. Now, once the FML is been constructed, made, we will try to load this FML in different loading conditions. We will test them. First of all, we will load them in tensile loading, static tensile loading. Static loading is a very basic loading condition in which the sample is pulled. Like for example, this is your sample and this is pulled from both the sides using a simple UTM. And once this is pulled, it may fracture from here or here. So we'll see what is the failure happening during this part. And remember that this is a static process. That means time required to fail this is about 10 seconds or 30 seconds or somewhere around 1 minute also. So we are loading it in static and dynamic situations both. What is the difference between a static loading and a dynamic loading? Static loading will take a lot of amount of time. The rate of loading is lesser. However, for a dynamic loading, the rate of loading is very fast. So what will be the behavior of material in both of them? It has been seen and will be shown in the further slides that the behavior is very much different in both the situations. When you do the same loading in a high rate and in a low. So the experiment, I think, has been deleted from me. So I'll show you how I'll show this. If I can do this. Okay. Okay, this video is available. Now you can see this is being loaded. And once it is being loaded, it fractures from the stresses are becoming greater and greater, and it fails from one point. And as you can see in this figure, something similar happens. Experiments also, the structure has been failed after certain time. This is a static loading condition. And this is the FEM part of the static load. You can see the magnified view here. And remember, whenever aluminum fails, it fails in shear, 45-degree shear angle fails. So usually the failure behavior is like this. So this angle will not be exactly 45. Usually, from the von Mises criteria, you know that the failure usually occurs at a 45-degree angle, and usually in shear. In some of these samples, in experiments, there are always errors. Misalignment will be there will be other errors. So you can see some samples has failed and shown a 45-degree behavior, but not all. But usually, if more than 60% behavior is there, then we used to take that as our basis. So FEM also predicted the 45-degree behavior of the finite element. And this is a simple metal layer. And these are the results. I have not included many results, only some of the results, so that acknowledge the fact that how the catastrophic failure is occurring, and then how the metal layer is used, and what is the advantage of putting the metal layer inside the composite structure. So as the loading begins, this is for this fiber metal laminate. As the loading begins, it happens like this. And once at point A, aluminum reaches, or a metal layer reaches, is plastic point, yield point, it starts to bend, or in a ductile fashion, it bends, and it dissipates energy in ductility. And then at this point C, the composites fail. There is a catastrophic failure. See how much the reduction in the load. It's just like a shear market pressure. Catastrophic failure, about more than 50%. And then what happens here? This is how the metal layer takes the load. It will not allow the load to go to zero. So any troubleshooting, if required, can be done at this point. So what is the advantage of putting metal layer? The catastrophic failure is avoided, and any troubleshooting required can be performed in this range, where the material is loaded in ductility. In this, two metal layers were added in the composite layer, and you can see it breaks in a stepwise fashion. First, the one layer fails, and then the another fails. and this is for the other layer. Now let's see this video and see how the failure in FEM is predicted. This is using finite element software like the CAE. Explicit version is used. Whenever a matrix fails, the matrix is the first one to fail in a composite laminate. And matrix fails by creating a cracks. And matrix creates a crack to fail. And in the FEM also you will see these cracks. And the cracks are perpendicular in nature. That means they are perpendicular to the loading direction. This is the loading direction. As you can see, these are perpendicular cracks in the matrix, these cracks. You can see this is red, all these perpendicular cracks. And once a threshold is completed, this is a failure. This is for 3 metal layers. The white one represents the metal layer. So there are 3 layers, one in middle, and these are the matrix crack, as you can see, red ones. And now I will remove the metal layer so that you can see the delamination. What is the delamination? Peeling up. When aluminum layer is peeled off due to some certain loading conditions, then the delamination, that is called as a delamination, peeling off. And this is the delamination, red color version. This is a delamination of the layers. So this is how the static response is modeled. Now we will see about the dynamic behavior or dynamic response of these FMEs. And this will be very interesting because a very interesting machine is used to load the sample. Just look at this figure and we will provide you the pictorial view also. It contains 2 bars, one incident bar, another one is a transmitted bar. This is a sample in between. How it works? You might have seen a railway track. When a railway track is there and you are standing on the platform, many a times you have heard a kinking noise coming from the track or rail when the train is about to approach. And this kinking noise actually goes very high when the train is not stopping on the platform. It's just moving from this platform. Then these rails makes a kinking sound. These are the waves, sound waves, which travel faster than the train. The train will come afterwards before the sound waves. These are called as the kinking noise. And these are the waves. We call them as a Lamb waves also. These are the similar waves we used to use here to load the samples. So we create the waves here by using this mechanism. I will not explain this mechanism because you'll become confused. But just ensure or just assume that the Lamb waves is created here. And this will come here, load the sample. A part is moved here and the part is moved or reflected back. And this is a strain gauge which measures the going wave and the coming. And this is another strain gauge which measures the outgoing wave, transmitted. So let's see the figure, and figure will tell you more about it. This is the, we will come to this afterwards, but first of all, let's see the figure, how it looks like. So this is the Hopkinson bar arrangement. We used to call that as a split Hopkinson bar to test the material in high strain rate. These are the transmitted bar, incident bar, and this is that setup that is used to create the Lamb waves. My sample is here. I'm using the cameras also so that you can view this method. So this camera uses this and this camera uses this. We will check out the videos also and how they will look like. First of all, see the lateral video. Loading happens. And this is, remember, this is a very high speed. The rate is very high. How much is the rate? The rate is around 700 per second strains. This is the strain rate which it is loading. So ductility is there, first of all. The material is stretched in ductile form, and then the failure happens. And this is a shear failure. Now, since on the top we have a metal layer, so you cannot see the inside composite. So we have another camera. So this is the inside composite, layer wise. Let's see the video again. Material is loaded and then the shearing up. Now what will happen to the composite? Let's see here how the composites. I would like to show you some of the cracks that are generated. This is a crack, as you can see, a small buckle here. This is a crack. This is more a crack. This is another crack. So these are perpendicular cracks. Matrix cracks are always perpendicular. And we have proved in this that these cracks actually creates this delamination, peeling off. This peeling part is created by these perpendicular cracks. So let's see this video again. Complete video. And then the fiber failure happens, and then nothing is visible. So first of all, matrix crack. That matrix crack created a delamination. So first failure, remember, is matrix, and then the fibers. And aluminum is failed very last because the shear failure of aluminum usually fails in ductility after a lot of plasticity. So that part happens at the very last. And we are not modeling failure of aluminum because we are interested in avoiding the catastrophic failure. See this again, and then we move on. See, the metal layers has still not failed. One of the top metal layer has failed. So once the composite has failed, then a lot of bending comes in, and then the sample is fused. This is another parts of grip which we will skip with. It's not too much interest. Now let's see the FEM part of this, how we have modeled this. This was one of the challenging problems we have faced to model this. These are the two grips. This is grip 1, grip 2, incident bar, transmitted. Here the waves come. The waves came from this side, loads the sample and transferred it. See. And the time period here is very small. This is about 3 milliseconds. And let's see how the behavior of the sample is, first of all, the matrix crack. Since the low rate of loading is very high, you cannot see perpendicular matrix crack here. Some of the fiber failures are also visible. I will remove the metal layer to show you the delamination now. So this is the delamination part. Delamination as if peeling off the metal layers. The metal layer is removed, how the delamination. And remember that the delamination is initiated or inflicted due to matrix cracks. And these small parts here, elements has been removed. This is known as element deletion. So once everything for that material behavior for that element has been achieved, the element has been removed from the mesh. This is for layer 2. Another FML that contains 3 metal layers. The white layers are metal layers. Metal layers has been removed now. And then you can see how the failure of the structure happens. This is the removed element. You can look towards the composites getting buckled also. So as you can see, now what is the importance of showing this? The importance is that the aircraft structure, even if it fails, it will not detach from it. So that the troubleshooting part will take place after some time. You can do the troubleshooting. Fully the load is not reduced to 0. You can have something to rely upon. That is what the advantage of putting metal layers inside the composites. One FAQ has been asked in which it has been said that why should not we use only the metal layers? Why? What is the need of composites? So the answer is very basic and simple, because the composites provide us a lot of strength. Aluminum doesn't provide us the strength, or metal layer is not that much of strength. So composites are twice, thrice strength of the metal layers. So metal layer has been included only to prevent the cracks. Let's see the another part. These are some of the results, again, of no use to you, not very much important. But look at this figure. This is the loading part, and then catastrophic failure, and then the ductility of plastic. Okay, so this has been done for static work that we have shown earlier, and this is for dynamic, this problem. So what is the advantage? See, when it has been loaded at a high strain rate, the strength of the material increases. The strength of the material increases. And which strength is increasing? The composite as well as the metal layers. This is something very important to take away. That when you load something very similar in a static or in a dynamic situation, the strength increases in a dynamic situation. And why that happens is a part of a material science in which there are many slip planes which actually fails in a different way. That behavior is something very different. You can ask that question afterwards, and I will show you the explanation. That is related with the microstructural condition of the material. But this is show that the composites are rate sensitive, and metal layers too are rate sensitive. So these loading behavior in aircrafts are rate sensitive too, because the aircraft used to remain in a dynamic situation in most of the part of its life. Aircraft, what is the main function of aircraft? To fly, to move, and that too very fast. So the dynamic condition has came, and that dynamic condition increases the strength of the structure during the loading situation. So let's see, this is the another result in which the metal layers, one metal layer has been failed and the another metal, and then the ductility part. FEM predicted a little bit behavior, a different behavior, and these FML or FEM behavior is mostly governed by the material selection, the material model selection, how the material model is behaving. So this is all related with the mathematical model. I have created a mathematical model, and then I have created a subroutine, and then I have. So this non-performance of FEM there, this is the FEM part, and this is the experimental. Sorry, this is the FEM part, and this is the experimental. So this is my limitation. My limitation to model the material correctly. If I would have considered other factors also, the result would have been much closer to the experimental scenario. Let's see another result. So you understand what is the basic behavior of these FMS. Let's talk about something very interesting. Another test, and this test is the most important. This is the out of plane behavior of the composite. That means loading the composite in this way. This is the composite layer, and you are loading it in this fashion. That means it will buckle, or in something very similar to simply supported beam. This creates a lot of buckling, and usually the failure happens due to tension here and compression here. So to test the material in this form, we use a machine known as drop weight impact tower. So we use our FML to, this is our FML, in this case composite, but we can use the FML also. And we will see in the experimental view how this behavior happens, or how the material is loaded. Let's see this. This is the loading of this specimen. So the specimen has been loaded. A circular ring is used so that the boundary condition has been followed. We cannot make this stress waves go there and then come back again. So that to avoid the stress waves to propagate in a free condition, we use this ring. I don't know how clear this video is, but I think there is, due to some internet connectivity, this is so this is completed. Chamber has been closed. And this is the data acquisition system. Once we start it, that means the loading of the machine is in progress. This is in compression. We do the compress. This is the impactor. Sorry. Oh. So the impactor is now loaded. Sample has been placed, and this is the loading gun for the drop weight. All the commands is sent from this navigation system to the machine. And once we will continue, they will ask me to provide the amount of energy that I would like to hit, with which amount of energy I would like to hit. So I can provide my desired energy. Desired energy, let's say I used to provide here, how much? 60 I am providing. 60 joule it will hit. So it will use the expression for the potential energy. E equals to mgh. Mass is defined, 3 kg. So what it has to do, it has to adjust its height. So it's adjusting the height. Now I am showing you how the impact happens. So impactor then goes and hits the specimen. We will see the post-mortem of the sample also. And I would like to show you one more thing. These yellow rings here, you can see the yellow rings. They used to prevent multiple impacts. So in this specimen, only one impact has happened, not multiple impacts. So once one impact happens, these are the carriages. They used to prevent further multiple 2 or 3 times impact. We can relax them and we can have a multiple impact also. We'll see the post-mortem of this. This is how the failure happens. Now, definitely dent is there, and there is a crack, a perpendicular crack is there along the reading patch. You can see the crack very clearly. If it would have been only composite, then this would have been failed. But due to the metal layer, a crack is created and energy is dissipated in this crack. And that is the advantage I'm again going to tell you for including the metal layers in this configuration. The crack and the dent, all these things releases the energy. It dissipates the energy. So it helps to prevent my internal composite layer. Let's see the FEM part of this. So FEM part has also been created here, and I will show you various results. So this is the full model, and this is the most common loading conditions in aircraft, out of plane impact. These are the field variables here. So field variable SDV 5, 6, 7. I have created them, and what they mean is written here: fiber failure, fiber in compression, matrix failure in tension, compression. So I have taken only the 1/4 part, and we show you how the behavior happens. This is a cross-sectional view. You can see the delamination happening here. This is red color is a delamination. Again, delamination is a peeling off of the aluminum from this composite layer. And that was a matrix failure, and this is a compressive behavior of the matrix. It's a GIF file, so I can pause it, but you can see this part is a SDV8 is a matrix failure in compression. This is the most common mode of failure. This is another figure in which we have three metal layers. And something similar happens in this case also. This is the delamination variable. So these figures looks very good. Good in terms of doing, but the main part is the results, how the results have been generated. This is created by using a force displacement curve, a force deflection curve, in fact. This is a force history, and this is a force time displacement, how the behavior happens initially. So initially, due to the high eigenvalues of the material, there is fluctuations. And then the loading part is there, and at the end, here some failure happens, and then it rebound backs. This is a sign of rebounding of the impactor. This is the experimental values and it's demanded. And these are some of the delamination interfaces. And I have created the composite layers are translucent in nature. That means they are translucent. Light can pass through them. Because epoxy is clear in nature. So you can see the delamination happening. I have marked them. This is for the bottom layer, and this is for the top layer. Very similar behavior is observed in the FEM also. We used to say them as a peanut shaped profile. And this is for higher energy. And see, as the energy becomes higher and higher, and this is for the third higher energy. As the energy becomes higher, there is a lot of more delamination, interface failure happening, and a lot of other damages also occurring inside the layers. What more I have? So this is shown how the delamination is nucleated with this out of plane impact. So what nucleates the delamination? What nucleates the delamination? Delamination is nucleated by the matrix layer, matrix cracks. These matrix crack nucleates the delamination. These two figures are at the same time frame, but these are two different variables. This is matrix crack variable and this is delamination variable. At the same time frame. And the reason for the delamination, why the delamination happens? Due to matrix crack, obviously, but due to which stress? Due to interface interlaminar shear stresses. And you can see I have plotted the interlaminar shear stresses on the two profile planes, one along this profile and one along this profile. And these stresses are high in nature. And they are compressive in nature as well. Remember that when you load this from here, this will be in compression and the lower one will be in tension. Upper one will be in compression, lower one will be in tension. So these are high tension, high compressive stresses, or also known as interlaminar shear stresses. So these things are difficult to find from the experimental department. So the experimental department, you cannot overview all these things, which stress is there, which is higher. How will you put? How will you put your cameras? Your camera will become damaged if you put it inside this chamber. I have taken these videos, images from the basic camera. So you cannot take a real-time image here. Some people used to do that, but that is very risky. So FEM is an alternative method to model that correctly. And you need a mathematical modeling to see these all things looks very curious and very beautiful, but the maths behind this part, it needs to be understood. I have excluded all these maths. I'm not showing these things in these figures. This will bore the presentation, create a lethargic session, so I will not do that. I want you to acknowledge this fact that the FEM is a good candidate to model the experimental behavior of the laminates. And these are the results for 4 different layers. Sorry, 4 different configurations. Layer 1, layer 2. And these FMS contain 4 metal. This is 2 metal layer. Here we have 3 metal layers. Here we have 4 metal layers. And here also we have 4 metal layers. What is shown here? Just by looking at the figure, you can see that when you include more metal layers inside the configuration, you have a good damage resistance. And this damage resistance is good. Why? Because a lot of load is transferred in damage dissipation or delamination dissipation. What is damage degree or damage resistance? Damage resistance is a variable that actually measures the resistance offered by the material to the damage. And this shows that it has a good damage resistance. If you include more metal layers in the configuration, then you have a good damage resistance. And remember that all these layers are equal in weight. Overall strength is weight, everything is same. Just I have included more metal layers in. So composites are also there and metal layers are also. More number of metal layers helps to dissipate the energy in delamination, and our work is done. I will avoid the catastrophic failure. Here the comparison of some of the results are there. No figure part I'm including. This will make the things complex. Only the viewing part. So this was the samples taken for different 4 layers laminates, and these are the experimental counterparts. This is the top face impact, and this is the bottom face impact. See the creation of FEM here. That looks like the mathematical modeling of the FEM is quite good. Otherwise, this crack propagation or this crack production have been very tedious in FEM. and this crack is produced due to shear failure. So this completes the presentation, and this is all I have to show you. And we would like to have a hands-on first, or then we have a question answer. Okay. So if you have any questions relating to that, whatever, any interesting question, anything that you have, please can ask, and then we will have some hands-on on Abacus Appian software.
So, participant, if you have a question, please raise your hand or put it in the chat box. Otherwise, we have. Okay, so there is some question. Sir, the question is from the participant. Some of the present based on some specific topic is how would you qualify the test?
Sorry?
Some of the presentation is based on some specified topic. Based, how would you qualify the test? What specific topic and test is qualified?
So, regarding this question, the participants need not to worry about the test. The test will be, the questions in the test will be according to the general topics. It won't be having any very specific topic. So don't worry about the test. It will be the question will be general in nature on the topics that resource person had delivered. I hope I have answered the question.
Okay, so I would also would like to add something that okay, you will get the certificates here, but the important part is understand or learn something that is being shown here, and the test part is not specific to any of these studies related to that. Mostly these studies has been done, and the major part of the expanded view only will be asked. So no major questions will be asked. These things has been shown to you so that you can take up research as your further future career, and this is not related. So we'll try to take a hands-on on FEM software, Abacus CAE, and this will be a good learning session for you. So we would like to model a simple problem. In this, it's my duty to take up such problem so that it is simple also, and it will cover most of the part from the Abacus software. That's why I've taken out of plane impact problem that I have modeled here, like in this one. Actually, this will cover the interaction part also. If I would have taken the simple problem of tensile test, then that would not have covered the interaction contact part. So it's my duty that all the parts should be covered. It should be easy for beginners also, should be interesting for the advanced level shipper. So if you have the software, you can move with me. If you don't have, then it doesn't matter. You can just enjoy this session. Okay, so this is the module. So this is the interface for Abacus software, and in this we have different modules, and we will solve our problem in these modules. This is a part module in which we used to make our model, deformable body, impactor, all these things. Property module in which we will define the property to a material. That means elasticity, damage, etc. Assembly. In the assembly part, we will assemble the model if it requires assembly. The step module represents, majorly you can represent that the step modules will show you or will require you to answer this question that your model is a dynamic model or it's a static. It's a thermal model, it's a eigenvalue problem. Which type of analysis you want to do? This will be given. Interaction, when two bodies interact or contact. Any contact will be given in the traction module. Then the load module, any loads on the body will be applied here. Mesh module. In FEM sessions, you have gone through the basics of FEM, and I think that you must be knowing that there are bodies, or the part that we are modeling needs to be discretized in specific small elements. So we call that small elements as finite elements, and this is where we used to define meshing. On it as a meshing of the body. Then we will not talk about the optimization model. This is for shape optimization. We will not use it, and then we will run it. And then finally, we'll be using visualization model to visualize our results. So visualizing the force displacement curve, basic part. So we start the model. Okay, part. So start the part. First of all, we create the part. I am modeling the projectile and the plate. The projectile and the plate. So projectile is usually rigid in nature because I would like to see the deformation in the plate. So my projectile can be rigid, but my plate, this thing, this body will need to be deformable. So I'll make a deformable body. Part 1, plate, 3D, formable, solid. So I'll continue. I'll make a random model, not with specific dimensions. And remember that Abacus does not have dimensions. It's unitless, and you have to provide your own dimensions. Just be with any one dimensions throughout the model. And the other dimensions or the results will follow the dimensions in that pattern. So I'm taking it in meters and in seconds. So this is my plate. Let's say this is how much is this? (100 mm radius). So 100 mm means 100 mm diameter. So it will be 50 mm. E minus 3. E minus 3 is in meters. I'm taking it in meters. 50 mm. Once this is done, that's okay. You would like to give the depth or the thickness of the plate. Let's say I have 1 mm thick plate, 1 and E minus 3 mm, because I'm taking it in meters. So this is my simple plate. Now let's make the projectile or the impactor or the bullet. It will be 3D and I will take analytical rigid. Why should I make deformable? When it will be analytical, rigid, the advantage will be there will be no elements. My analysis will be much faster. I will revolve the shell. I'll try to make the bullet. I am not using any specific dimensions, just making the bullet and making the conical bullet. So this is the simple conical bullet we have. If I want, I can edit this and make this further sharp. So let's make this further. Okay. So the part module has been completed. I have created a bullet and a plate. Then I have to assign a property. My deformable body needs to be assigned a property. So in property, this is the create material property, in which creating a material, first of all, we require density of the material. So let's say this is aluminum. Aluminum have a density of 7,800 kgs per second. Then let's say we'll define elastic part, isotropic elasticity, simple Hooke's law. Modulus will be aluminum. For aluminum, we have 72. E9 is for GPa, 2 GPa. Poisson's ratio 0.3, simple. So this will follow the Hooke's law. Now, if I require, I would add a plasticity to it. Plasticity requires complex model that I would not like to discuss here. Otherwise, this will be a long video. So only the Young's modulus and Poisson's ratio needs to be assigned, and we will follow simple Hooke's law to define it. The aim is to see how the hands-on modeling happens, not to see the plastic. Okay, elastic density and elasticity, only two things is required. So no failure of this plate will happen. Now, once the property has been created, it needs to be assigned. Okay, you can assign it from here, assign section, assign it, and this section 1 has been assigned. So it has been given that property. Remember, the bullet does not require any property because it is rigid in nature. Next, the assembly part. So let's bring both of them together. First of all, the plate, and then the bullet. Now, the bullet is not properly oriented. Let me orient this bullet properly by using simple orientation tool. So I need to rotate this so that it can be on top of it. And rotate this, and its rotation will be on which plane? I have to rotate in which plane? In the YZ plane. Rotate it in this plane, then only this will be rotated. So start point and end point. Let's talk about the start point. The angle will, let's check, it's rotating, that's rotating 90 degrees. So now it will be touching the plate, so it should be avoided during the initial contact. So otherwise the software will not know that contact interaction between the two. So it should be kept a little away from the plate. So this is, let's move this bullet a bit higher. We have selected this, and this is the center point, and then give the end point as minus Z 2 mm, that's 3, So now you can see the visible difference between the two. There is a gap between this bullet and the target. So the assembly module has been completed. Then requiring a step module, which requires to assign a and assign the calculation method, which calculation method using to calculate the behavior of this plate. So we'll be using the dynamic because this is the dynamic analysis, and explicit. There are two forms of analysis, implicit and explicit. Explicit is for the events which are having very less amount of time, and implicit usually have events which have more amount of time. So it has a mathematical difference, but I will not go in the mathematical difference, just see the amount of difference between the amount of time. These requires usually Newton-Raphson methods to solve. However, this is requiring a forward Euler and backward Euler methods to solve the integration equations. So we'll use the dynamic explicit and give our time. So time should be very small. It should be 1 millisecond or less than that. Let's take 1 millisecond. And then this is defined. And then let's talk about interaction between this and this. So we'll be taking surface to surface interaction. In the attraction module, this is the create interaction part. And let's have a surface to surface interaction. That means surface of this and surface of this should interact. So first surface should be having a higher stiffness. So this is the rigid one. We have selected this. Then the other surface is the top. And this is the contact interaction property. That means when they both will contact, how the behavior will look like. So let's say that the behavior is tangential, which they do not slip, and they have a normal behavior. That means normal pressure is executed when they interact. Now we will apply the loading conditions. So the projectile is moving with a velocity. So let's apply a velocity to the projectile. So a projectile usually requires projectile used to require a reference point. So we'll give a reference point in this axis. So wherever the node is, we can give a reference point there. Here. So this is the reference point. So we'll assign the velocity on this reference point. So in the predefined field, you pick the initiative or initial, and in the mechanical, we have a velocity. Let's give it a velocity of, let's say, 100 meter per second or 60 meter per second. 60. And this will be in the positive z direction. And the other two will be 0. The velocity has been assigned. Now this is a deformable plate. If this will not be fixed, this plate will go with the billet. So this plate needs to be fixed from all the sides. So let's fix it by using boundary condition. symmetry and cast. Continue. And let's select this edge part. So this is fixed from all the sides. And let's say U1, U2, U3. That means all the three displacements and all the three rotations about this will be 0. All the three displacement U1, U2, U3 and the corresponding rotations are curtailed. So this has been done. Then about the mesh. You have to mesh the part of this. Bullet does not need to be meshed. Only the plate needs to be meshed. So we'll go to the mesh module and seed part and let's apply some seed of 5 mm E minus 3. See that meshing, the more you make the mesh finer, the better your results will be. But here, as a hands-on experience, we take a rough mesh, a porous mesh. Then in the mesh module, you mesh it. And you can assign your element type also. Which type of element? In other FBDs, you must be gone through different element types. We will not discuss about the element types here. This will further complicate the issue. Take the simple basic element. So our model is now almost ready. So I would like to check this model first, that it is running or it is having some issues. So we'll check the model first. We'll go in the job, go in the continue. We'll try to run this model. And from here you can submit. So submission will first of all create a check. Different checks it will create so that it will see that everything is properly modeled. If there is anything that needs to be corrected, it will show you the error. And then you can correct the error and read it. So it will show the error here if there will be any errors, any general error. So it usually is a very heavy software. So, okay, the rigid bodies, I have intentionally not done this. The rigid bodies with nodes does not have a mass issue. They always remember that the rigid body would be required to be curtailed in either of its direction. So this is a rigid body. It should only go in this direction and not in other directions. So we have to curtail it. Create a boundary condition. Displacement should be curtailed from this reference point. Okay. So curtail all the displacement apart from U3. U3 is your velocity. So don't curtail this. Just curtail all other. And then I don't think this error will be there. So let's see if there is some error or not. Then we again go back and make the corrections and then come back again. So the input file is complete. So there is no input file error. Now it will check out the. So, okay, we have not given any mass to the rigid body. So this bullet will be having some mass. So let's give the bullet some mass. Special inertia, create and give the point mass. Let's say this bullet is of mass of 20 grams. 20 E minus 3. Mass is. Okay. Now I will again go and submit. One thing we have intentionally not done, till now. What will be our results? We would like to see a force displacement curve. So how we will check out the force displacement curve? For the force displacement curve, we need to give the input first of all, that we require a force displacement curve. So that error has been now come, and then my analysis is running. Okay. Let me first of all run this and then come back again. So it's running in background. I will first of all would like to know the force displacement behavior of this model. So how I will do this? This is a field output variable and this is a history output. So in the history output variable, I need to first of all make a set. Create set 1. And in this set, I will choose a reference point because this will be my all the reactions from this plate will give me the force, reaction force. So there will be a reaction force and displacement. So I will choose the point, and here I will choose the set, and in set 1 I will choose U3. U3 means displacement in 3 directions, Z direction, and RF3, that means reaction in the third direction. So I will need to output these. They will give me a graph of U3 and RF3, reaction and displacement. However, in the background, my analysis has been completed. So let's see the result without the displacement and force. So I'll see the results. Let's see if it has run. It has run properly. Since there were no elasticity, it was gone there, impacted, gone there, impacted. Why it has came back? Because there was no elasticity. Only elasticity was gone there, impacted. So you like to run it again so that we can check out the force displacement curve. Now I've created a force displacement, so I'll submit again and I will run it again. So it's running, it will hardly take 1 minute to complete. So it has been now completed. Let's check out the results with a force displacement. So let's check out the in ODB history output. I will go there and find out my RF3 is a reaction force. Let's plot this. So this will be, it's almost a zero force. And let's check out the displacement. So we have some displacement is there. So once the projectile gone there, and then there is a, so there is a, you can see that there is a 20 mm displacement happening. You can draw the force displacement together. Okay. Together you can draw them, and then able to. In this way you can see the stresses also. So primary sources are the stresses So this is the behavior of stresses. You can see this is about 16, 1.6 is GPA stresses. And we can see the displacements also, how the behavior of displacements is there. This is the impact. This is not showing as regularly as the model that was there in the slides because we have taken damage, elasticity, other things also. Here, thing was to show you how the creation happens in Abaqus and how the different modules works. So I think this will be enough, and I hope that this would be informative to you, and this will be helpful to you in choosing your further studies as a researcher. Now, if you want to have any queries related with hands-on or previous slides, you can ask.
So this is all about the last session of day 4 of the faculty development program on computational techniques and engineering. We are much thankful to Dr. Sanan Hussain Khan for taking out time out of his busy schedule for the wonderful presentation and hands-on session. I hope participants have gained some knowledge about the analysis and application of laminate composite as aircraft structure. Dr. Khan is now open to questions, so participants may raise their hand or put their queries in the chat box. Thanks.
You can ask any question related with the slides or the hands-on session or anything that you have that is there in your mind.
I don't think there is any question.
So I can see a question in chat box. I think don't know whether it is related to this session or the previous one. Someone has written there.
Yeah.
Could
There
not
is a question.
Sir, I could not differentiate between the floor and own function. It's related to. Not sure about it.
This is the question. Achha. Okay. So one question.
No, there are two questions. First one is from Mr. Abdul Samad Khan. He is asking, are mesh elements here of different size?
So in the hands-on session, I have taken a uniform mesh of 1 mm. I have taught you 1 E minus 3. I have shown you. But usually we used to take a smaller size element for the impact location. The location where we are impacting. I think this is it. So the presentation screen is not there, but the point at which the bullet is impacting, at that point we need to have a finer mesh. So the size element should be very small at that location. And then on the rest of the plate, we can have a porous mesh. Why we are taking this finer and porous meshes? Because the more number of elements you will include in FEM, the more computational time it will take. More time it will take to run. So, and also in the dynamic situations like this, requires a finite element to correctly model the experimental behavior. So, for the hands-on session, I have taken a uniform mesh as per the question, but we need to take the finer mesh in the impact region.
I have a question related to the mesh. While selecting the mesh, how to determine the perfect quality of mesh that will represent the exact results?
Perfect quality.
It's perfect quality of mesh size that will represent the exact results. How to
Okay,
determine?
so this is a very good question actually. This is important because how you determine the exact size of the mesh, because the sizes will vary and it cannot be just entered with your computational power that you have. So this is known as mesh sensitive study. Mesh sensitivity study. So that requires fining of the mesh. That means you reduce the size of the element and check out the corresponding displacement. Check out the corresponding displacement. That means take 1 mm mesh, run the solution, and then check what is your displacement. Then take the final mesh, 0.8 mm, then check out the displacement. Then take the further final mesh. When your displacement is constant, that means that is your exact mesh, or that is your least amount of mesh that is required for that problem. When your displacement is not reducing or increasing. So usually mesh sensitivity study happens on the basis of displacement also and on the basis of stresses also. But stresses means which stresses? There are Cauchy stresses also, non-Cauchy also, Hamiltonian stresses also. So I prefer that you should go with the displacement strategy. If you check out the displacement and see where your displacement is constant, just take that amount of mesh only. Do not further refine. Hope this will answer the question.
Thank you. Another question. While giving the boundary conditions, you have provided velocity to the bullet. So where that value of velocity comes from, whether it has come from the experimental value of or any other value.
So in the experiments, what we used to do, we used to hit the plate or our target not with a defined velocity. We used to create a pressure and then we used to hit it with the compressed air, and we used to propel the bullet with a compressed air. So we have a camera setup or one velocity measuring device in the experiment. So from there we will measure the velocity in the experiment, and then if we wanted to compare the experiment and the simulation, then we will take the experiment velocity and put in the simulation to compare it. Here we have taken any random velocity for the handle session, 60 meters per second. But usually the velocities are defined from the experiment, should be taken from the experiment. Hope this will answer.
I think there is no more question. Oh. Yeah, once again, very much thankful to Dr. Khan for taking time out of your busy schedule for the wonderful session. Thank you, sir. Over to you, Dr. Imran.
Yeah. So with this, we come to an end of session 3 of day 4. I once again thank Dr. Sanan Khan for sharing such technically rich research material that he has conducted in IIT Kanpur and IIT Delhi. So the purpose of this session was to show the power of computational techniques and how these techniques can be applied in different engineering applications, so that we can appreciate more about the power of these techniques. So that was the whole purpose about it. And the hands-on session on the Abaqus was how he created all these models and how we can use Abaqus in our problems. So again, thank Dr. Sanan for that.